The way a heart attack looks in the movies has probably gotten more people killed than almost anything else I can think of. The man grabs his chest, gasps, and drops to the floor. Dramatic, unmistakable. So that is what people sit around waiting for. They feel that something is wrong, but it does not match the movie. So they tell themselves it is indigestion or a pulled muscle or that they are just run down, and they wait. I'm Dr. John Myers, internal medicine, 15 years of practice. And in those 15 years, the single most common thing I've watched cost people their heart muscle and sometimes their lives was the time they spent waiting for a heart attack to look like the one on television. Here is what almost no one has ever sat you down and explained. During a heart attack, your survival is mostly decided in the first 10 or 15 minutes, long before you ever reach a hospital. And there are exactly 3 things you can do in those minutes that genuinely change how it ends. Not vague advice, 3 specific moves. One of them buys you time. One of them slows down the very thing that is killing your heart. And one of them keeps that heart alive while you wait for help to arrive. Before you click off because you assume the answer is just call 911, everyone knows that. Give me a minute here. Calling for help is the first move. Yes, but there are 2 specific mistakes people make even while they are doing it. Mistakes that cost them dearly. And there are 2 more techniques stacked on top of it that most people have never once been told. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to do, in what order, whether it is happening to you or to the person sitting right next to you. Because the day this actually happens, you are not going to have time to look it up. You will do what you already know or you will freeze. My job in the next 20 minutes is to make sure you already know. And look, this is the kind of thing I have built my whole second career around, helping people stay strong and independent well into their 70s and 80s instead of slowly handing their body over to something they never saw coming. I took everything I tell my own patients and put it into one simple plan. The way to eat, the daily habits, the warning signs to never ignore, all of it in one place. It has already helped thousands of people live their best life after 60. If you want it, the link is right there on your screen. You do not have to write anything down or remember anything. It is all waiting for you. Now, to understand why these 3 techniques work and why the order matters so much, you need to actually see what is happening inside your chest when a heart attack hits. Because once you see it, the whole plan is going to make perfect sense and you will never forget it. Your heart is a muscle, and time is muscle. What's really happening, like any muscle, it needs a steady supply of oxygen, which it gets from its own little network of arteries sitting right on its surface. We call them the coronary arteries. A heart attack happens when one of those arteries gets suddenly blocked, and almost always the thing blocking it is a blood clot. What happens is a fatty deposit in the wall of the artery cracks open, and your blood does what it is built to do at any wound. It forms a clot to seal the crack. Except here in that narrow artery, the clot does not stop bleeding. It seals the pipe shut. And the second it does, the stretch of heart muscle being fed by that artery stops getting oxygen. Starved muscle does not wait patiently. It begins to die. Here is the line I want burned into your memory. Time is muscle. The longer that artery stays blocked, the more of your heart dies. And most of that is permanent. The muscle that dies in the first hour does not grow back. You do not get it back next month. So everything, and I mean everything, comes down to one question. How much of your heart can you keep alive until somebody reopens that artery? And it turns out exactly 3 things decide the answer. 1, how fast you get that artery reopened. 2, how fast the clot keeps growing while you wait. And 3, how hard your starving heart is being forced to work in the meantime. 3 factors. And here's the part that should give you hope, because it gives you power. You have a direct hand in all 3. That is what the 3 techniques are. Each one goes straight after one of those factors. Get the artery open faster. Stop the clot from growing. Take the load off the heart. Remember those 3 jobs and you will never forget what to do or in what order. Let me put a face on this because I think about this man every single time I teach it. I will call him Howard, 66 years old, retired, the kind of fellow who never wanted to make a fuss about anything in his life. One morning around 4:00 a.m., he woke up with what he was certain was a bad bout of heartburn. A heavy, full feeling right in the middle of his chest, like something was sitting on him. He took an antacid. It did nothing. His left arm ached a little and he felt clammy and a bit sick to his stomach, but he did not have crushing pain. He was not clutching his chest the way they do on TV, so he told himself it would pass. He did not want to wake his wife over a little indigestion. He sat down in his recliner to wait it out. By the time she came downstairs and found him gray and sweating, and they got to the hospital, nearly 3 hours had gone by. Howard lived. I want to be honest about that. But he lost a large piece of his heart muscle in those 3 hours of waiting. Muscle he is never getting back. He spends his retirement now managing heart failure, getting winded walking to the mailbox on a fistful of medications. Hold on to Howard, because at the end I'm going to tell you about someone who had nearly the identical morning and walked out of it with a very different life. The whole difference was the first few minutes. So before we even get to the 3 techniques, you have to how to recognize it, be able to catch this thing in the first place, because you cannot act on a heart attack you have talked yourself out of having. And recognizing it is exactly where most people, including a lot of my own patients over the years, go wrong. Forget the movie. Most heart attacks do not begin with a dramatic collapse. They begin quietly. The most common sign is discomfort in the center of the chest, but people almost never call it pain. They call it pressure, tightness, a squeezing, a heaviness, like a weight pressing down, or a band cinched around the chest. It may come and go in waves, and it very often spreads to one or both arms. The classic being the left arm, but also up into the jaw or the neck, around to the back, or down into the upper stomach, which is precisely why so many people swear it is just heartburn. Now stack on a cold sweat, shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness, or a sudden wave of exhaustion that makes no sense for what you are doing, and you have the real face of a heart attack. And I need to say this part very directly, especially for the women, the signs in women and diabetics watching, and for anyone with diabetes. Your heart attack is more likely to be the quiet kind. Women more often get the shortness of breath, the nausea, the pain in the jaw or the back, or just a profound bone-deep fatigue without the obvious chest grab at all. And people with diabetes can have nerve damage that dulls the warning pain. So a heart attack in a diabetic can be almost silent. Over 15 years, I have seen far too many people, women especially, who waited because what they felt did not match the picture in their head. So let me give you a simple rule. If something feels deeply wrong in your chest, your upper body, or your breathing, and it is not going away, you treat it as your heart until a trained professional tells you otherwise. You are allowed to be wrong. You are not allowed to wait. There is one more distinction here that matters enormously, because people mix heart attack versus cardiac arrest. These two things up constantly. A heart attack is a plumbing problem. An artery is blocked and the person is usually awake, talking, frightened. Cardiac arrest is an electrical problem. The heart's rhythm suddenly goes haywire and the heart simply stops pumping. That person collapses, goes unresponsive, and is not breathing normally. A heart attack can tip over into cardiac arrest, and that is exactly why the minutes matter so desperately. I will tell you precisely what to do if someone actually collapses, because that calls for a different response, and you genuinely need to know both. But for now, the 3 techniques I'm about to give you are for the person who is conscious and showing those warning signs. Technique number one, call 911 immediately. And yes, you have heard it 1,000 times, but how you make that call is exactly where people bleed away precious heart muscle. And it goes straight after factor 1, getting that artery open as fast as humanly possible. Here is what most people do not understand about that phone call. The clock that matters most to your heart is not when you finally get to the hospital. It is the total amount of time that artery stays blocked, start to finish. And calling 911 is the single fastest way to shrink that total. but not for the reason you would guess. When you call an ambulance, your treatment does not begin when you roll through the emergency room doors. It begins the moment the paramedics reach you. They can put an ECG on your chest right there in your living room, confirm that it is a heart attack, and radio it ahead so that the hospital's cardiac team is already gowned up and waiting before you even arrive. The American Heart Association has shown for years that patients who come in by ambulance get treated faster than the ones who walk into the ER on their own because the entire system is already in motion for them. The standard hospital's push toward is getting that blocked artery reopened within 90 minutes of your arrival. Calling early and arriving by ambulance is what makes hitting that window possible. Now, the two mistakes, because these are the ones that cost Howard so dearly. The first one is simply waiting, telling yourself you will give it a few more minutes, that you do not want to bother anyone, that you would be embarrassed if it turned out to be nothing. Let me take that worry off your shoulders right now. As a doctor, paramedics would far, far rather come out for a false alarm than arrive at your door too late. That is the job, and they mean it. And here's the hard part. The first hour of a heart attack is also when you are at the very highest risk of slipping into one of those lethal rhythms I described, the kind that stop the heart. The ambulance carries the one machine on earth that can shock your heart back into rhythm, a defibrillator. Sitting at home waiting means none of that is anywhere near you. The second mistake is driving yourself or letting a loved one drive you. Please do not. If your heart slips into that dangerous rhythm while you are behind the wheel, you can lose consciousness in traffic. And now you have turned one emergency into two with no equipment and no trained hands anywhere in the car. In the back of an ambulance, you are already inside a moving emergency room, so the move could not be simpler. You sit down, you call 911, you say the words clearly, "I think I am having a heart attack," and you stay on the line. Say that exact phrase, "I think I am having a heart attack." Those words tell the dispatcher to send the right team and to start coaching you through what comes next, including the second technique. Quick thing before I go on, and then right back to it. If this is the kind of straight, plain, spoken health information you wish your own doctor had the time to sit and give you, do me one small favor and hit that subscribe button and tap like while you're there. It genuinely helps me get this in front of more people who need to hear it before the day they need it. And leave me a comment. Tell me if you or someone you love has ever had a scare like this. I read them and they shape what I cover next. All right, so you have made the call. Here is the very next thing the dispatcher will most likely tell you to do. Technique number 22, if it is available and you are able to chew one regular aspirin. And this technique goes after the second factor, the clot that is actively growing in your artery while you wait. Remember, what I told you is blocking the artery, a blood clot. And a clot is not some finished solid object just sitting there. It is still forming, still recruiting more of the tiny blood cells we call platelets, the little cells whose whole job is to clump together and stop bleeding. In a heart attack, that clumping is happening in the worst possible spot, sealing your artery tighter and tighter by the minute. Aspirin steps right into the middle of that process. It makes your platelets much less sticky, so it can slow the clot's growth and in some cases keep that artery from closing off completely before help arrives. And the evidence behind this is not small or shaky. In a landmark trial called ISIS-2, published in The Lancet back in 1988, a single dose of aspirin given during a heart attack cut the risk of dying by about 23% from one aspirin taken at the right moment. Now, the specifics, because here they really do matter. It should be a regular strength aspirin, the 325 milligram tablet, or if that is what you have, 4 of the loud dose 81 milligram baby aspirins, which add up to about the same. And you chew it. Don't swallow it down whole. Chewing it breaks it down and gets it into your bloodstream far faster in minutes rather than much longer. And in a heart attack, minutes are the entire game. This is exactly why your 911 dispatcher will usually ask whether you have aspirin in the house and tell you to take it. So, let them guide you on it. But I have to draw some very clear lines around this one because aspirin is not right for everyone. Do not take it if you know you are allergic to it. Be cautious if you have been told you have a bleeding disorder, an active stomach ulcer, or if you are already on prescription blood thinners. And if you simply are not sure, that is precisely what the dispatcher and the paramedics are there to sort out with you in the moment. And hear me very clearly on this next part because it is where people get themselves into real trouble. Aspirin is the second technique. It is not the first, and it is never ever a substitute for the call. Chewing an aspirin and then lying down to see if it works on its own without calling for help is a deadly mistake I never want you to make. The aspirin buys a little time. The ambulance and the hospital save your life. So, one regular aspirin chewed after you have called, as long as you have no reason you cannot take it. That is the whole rule. Technique number 33, stop everything, sit down, and bring your body as calm and still as you possibly can. This one goes straight after the third factor, how hard your suffocating heart is being forced to work. Think for a second about what is actually happening. A piece of your heart muscle is starving because its oxygen supply has been cut off. Now, what does your heart do the moment you move around, climb the stairs, get agitated, or panic? It beats harder and faster, and it demands even more oxygen. But the supply line is blocked. So every bit of extra work you ask of your heart in that moment is work it simply cannot pay for. And that unpaid bill means more muscle damage and a higher chance of the rhythm going dangerous. So your one job here is the exact opposite of effort. Your job is to bring the demand down. The instant you suspect it, stop whatever you are doing and get yourself into a resting position. For most people, that means sitting down, leaning back a little. Somewhere you will not hurt yourself if you happen to faint. If you are very short of breath, sitting up tends to be easier on you than lying flat. Loosen anything tight around your neck or your waist, and then work on your breathing slow and steady in through the nose and out slowly. I know that is a hard thing to do when you're scared, and being scared is completely natural here. But that flood of adrenaline from panic drives your heart rate and your blood pressure up at the worst possible moment, and slow, deliberate breathing pulls some of that back down. If you are not alone, have the person with you stay close and keep you calm and still. And if you are alone, get yourself to the front door first, unlock it, and then sit down nearby. That way, the paramedics can get to you even if you cannot get up to let them in. That one small step has saved lives, and people almost never think off it. Now, I have to bust a dangerous myth that goes around the internet every couple of years because someone always asks me about it. You may have seen a forwarded message about so-called cough CPR. The claim is that if you feel a heart attack coming on while you are alone, you should cough hard and rhythmically to somehow keep yourself going. The American Heart Association has addressed this one head-on. It does not work for a person having a heart attack on their own. And worse, fooling around with it instead of picking up the phone can cost you the exact time that actually saves your life. So forget the coughing. The real third technique is simple, and it is proven. Stop moving. Sit down, breathe slow, unlock the door, and let the help that is already on its way come to you. And I promised I would cover the other situation because one day you might be the one who has to act for somebody else. What if the person actually collapses? You get to them and they are unresponsive and not breathing normally. That is no longer a heart attack you can talk them through. That is cardiac arrest. The heart has stopped, and right now you are this person's, if someone collapses, single best chance of living. 2 steps, and you do not need a single day of training to do them. First, call 911 and put it on speaker so your hands are free, or send someone else to call. Second, start pushing. This is hands-only CPR. Put the heel of one hand right in the center of the chest, your other hand on top of it. Lock your elbows and push down hard and fast, about 2 pushes every second. And do not stop. You are doing the pumping that their heart cannot do for itself. The American Heart Association has shown that immediate bystander CPR can double, even triple, a person's chance of surviving cardiac arrest. And if there is an automated defibrillator nearby, an AED, the kind of unit you see mounted on the wall in airports, gyms, and shopping centers, send someone to grab it. It will talk you through every step out loud, and it will not deliver a shock unless one is truly needed. You cannot make things worse. In cardiac arrest, the only wrong move is doing nothing at all. There is one more thing I want to give you, and it is the part nobody ever mentions. The people who come through a heart attack best are the ones who got ready before get ready before it happens, it ever happened. So tonight, do a few small things. Keep a bottle of regular aspirin somewhere you and your spouse could find it in the dark in 10 seconds. Make sure your house number is visible from the street so an ambulance is not hunting for you. If you have a heart condition already, know where your records and your medication list are and have the conversation, an honest one, with the people you live with about these warning signs and this plan. The heart attack is not the time to be learning any of this. Tonight is. So, let me make this something you will actually remember when it counts, because that is the only thing that matters. If you or someone right next to you has that chest pressure, the spreading ache, the cold sweat, the breathlessness, here is the plan, in order. 1. Call 911. Your action plan right away. Say the words, "I think I am having a heart attack." Do not wait to see if it passes, and never drive yourself. 2. While you wait, if you have aspirin and no reason you cannot take it, chew 1 regular 325 milligram tablet or 4 baby aspirins. Let the dispatcher guide you. 3. Stop everything. Sit down, loosen any tight clothing, unlock your door, and slow your breathing right down to take the load off your heart. And if the person collapses and is not breathing normally, that is cardiac arrest. Call 911, put it on speaker, and start hands-only CPR, hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. Use an AED if one is anywhere nearby. Now let me bring you back to Howard, because I told you about someone who had nearly the same morning he did and a very different life afterward. A few years later, I had a patient I will call Lorraine, 64. Same kind of morning, that heavy pressure in the chest, a little nausea, an ache in her jaw she very nearly brushed off. But Lorraine had watched something like this. She did not wait. She told her husband to call 911 and to say the word heart attack. While he was on the phone, the dispatcher had her chew an aspirin. She sat down in her kitchen chair, reached over and unlocked the back door, and slowed her breathing until the paramedics walked in 6 minutes later. ECG already in hand, they had her artery reopened well inside that 90-minute window. Lorraine walked out of the hospital a few days later with most of her heart muscle intact. The last time I saw her, she was back out in her garden. Same event, the same blocked artery more or less. The thing that separated a return to the garden from a retirement spent winded at the mailbox was not luck, and it was not better doctors. It was the first 10 minutes. It was 3 techniques done in the right order by a person who had decided in advance that she would not sit and wait. That is the part you control. You did not choose your genetics, and you cannot undo 30 years of cholesterol overnight, but the first 10 minutes belong entirely to you. If this gave you a plan you did not have 20 minutes ago, take a second and subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment, even just one word, so this can reach more people before the day they need it. Keep yourself informed. Share this with the one person you would most want to know it, and take good care of that heart of yours. I'm Dr. John Myers. Thank you for watching, and I will see you